Welcome back to the channel, guys, on another cook. Today we are doing Tuscan chicken. So we're going to season up some chicken and grill it over the coals, and we'll move that indirect to finish off while we're working on our sauce, which is a tomato and spinach based cream sauce. Really nice dish. You serve it over a pasta. So we'll crack on and get on with it and start seasoning the chicken up and get it onto the grill. Okay, for this then we're just using regular boneless chicken breasts. You can swap that out for thighs if you want, but we're going to start it off by just drizzling it with a little bit of the Brighter Gold garlic infused oil. Give that a rub round. So it serves two purposes. One, it's going to help our rub stick to it, and two, it will stop it sticking to our grates as well. So rather than oiling the grates, we oil the food. I'll just go a little drizzle on the bottom too. Okay, then for seasoning, really use whatever chicken seasoning you like. I'm using the Texas Ranch from Smoky Carter, but you can swap that out for anything you really want. This just has some real nice herb flavors in it, so I thought it would go well with the sauce. So just give that a nice dusting all over, and flip them over. Don't really need to wait for it to set up to it because we've added that oil. Flip them over, do the other side. There's a really strong dill flavour in this rub, which I really like. Make sure all sides are done. Don't miss any bits. Missed opportunity for flavour if you do. Okay, those are looking good. Okay, as I said, we have the Weber kettle set up in a 50-50 split. Temperature wise, I have about half a chimney starter of briquettes in there. With chicken, you're not going for that real high heat sear, so you don't want it screaming hot. So I've dumped them into the charcoal baskets, moved them off to one side. I've actually shut both top and bottom vents down halfway, just to regulate the temperature a little bit, because it was even half a chimney starter of briquettes was pretty hot for grilling over. With the kettle, you're sitting pretty close to them coals, so just to choke them down a little bit will hopefully stop us getting too much colour on the outside of the chicken. But we'll get these on the grill, them on both sides, and then we'll move them indirect, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the sauce. Okay, then once we've got a nice colour in our chicken directly over the coals, we move that to the indirect side. Now I probed it, it's still sitting around 45ish, so we're nowhere near ready to eat it yet, but it's going to continue to cook over in that indirect side. That's why it's important to keep your lid on your barbecue as much as possible whenever we go on to the sauce. So once the chicken was moved over then, I threw on my Lodge skillet, and while it was still cold, left it dry and threw in some bacon lardons. You can use bacon lardons or pancetta. These aren't traditionally used because doing Tuscan chicken, you fry off the chicken in the skillet or in the frying pan, and that's what gives you that nice sort of fond at the bottom of the pan, and that's the basis of your sauce. We're obviously doing it over the coals, so we don't have that. So the bacon lardons, well, bacon's awesome, but it also leaves a nice fond and a bit of bacon fat in the bottom of the pan, and that gives us a nice starting point for the sauce. So we'll pull the camera down into the skillet, and I will show you how to start the sauce off. We've still got that bacon fat in there in the fond, so now we're going to start turning that into a sauce. Okay, so as you can see here, we still have a good amount of bacon fat in the pan. Into that then we're going to add a knob of butter and get that melted down. So once that's completely melted, it's already going to start lifting those little bits off the bottom of the pan from the bacon fat. We're going to go in with half an onion and about 3 cloves of garlic. Mix them around to coat them in the bacon fat and the butter. And we'll leave those like that to soften for a little while, and just to cook out the rawness until the onions go a little bit translucent. Okay, our onions have started to turn nice and soft. You can sort of see all those little bacony bits that have come off the skillet. There's still some stuck on around the sides and the bottom. So what we're going to do now is add in roughly about 200 mils of cold chicken stock. That's going to cool down the skillet a little bit, but we want to bring that up the temperature slowly, and that'll allow any fats in the pan then to combine with the stock. So we just need to keep moving it about every now and again, and once that comes to a simmer then we move on to the next step. Alright, now our chicken stock's at a nice simmer. All the butter and the bacon fat have combined in with it, and it started to reduce down ever so slightly. I've held a little bit of chicken stock back. I still have another 100 mils or so. Once the sauce starts to come towards the end, we can decide what consistency we want on it. So I've left myself the option of making it a little bit thinner. Okay, into this, at this stage, we're going to these little vine ripened tomatoes. This is just a small punnet with a couple of vines in it. All the measurements will be on the recipe in the link below. So just add those in to the chicken stock, spread them out, coat them all in the stock. Okay, then we're just going to leave them there to cook down a little bit and soften, and then we're going to start bursting them to release their flavour into the actual sauce. And remember, every time you do something, you need to get the lid back on as fast as possible, because we still have chicken cooking on the indirect side, and with the lid off, it's not cooking. So it's starting to look pretty good. Get a little feeling for temperature here. Yeah, it's climbing nicely. We're up to about 65 in the thickest part of the breast. Yeah, we're looking good. So it's coming along nicely, but you have to keep the lid on to keep it cooking, and keep your vents over at that side of the barbecue. Alright, at this stage, the tomatoes have all cooked enough. You can see their skins have started to burst open, and they're nice and soft inside, so they're going to continue to cook down into the sauce. All nice and soft. Our sauce has actually thickened up quite well, reduced down. Now, as this is to go onto a pasta, I want to make sure there is enough sauce there. There's nothing worse than a pasta dish with barely any sauce in it. So I am going to add maybe half of the stock we have left, which is another, say, 50 mils or so. And it just thins it down ever so slightly. We still have some liquids to go in here, but we don't want to reduce it too much at this stage. If we give that a few minutes to come back up to a simmer, we're going to go in with the next ingredient. Okay, so as that's coming to a simmer, we'll go in with our next ingredient, which is spinach. So this is what can only be described as a large handful of spinach. Lost one to the coals. So we'll add that in, put the lid back on, and that's going to wilt down as that stock comes up to temperature. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. Spinach has all wilted down nicely into the sauce. We're bubbling away, starting to thicken up into a nice rich sauce. All those tomatoes have released their flavour. Now we're going with the healthy part, about a cup of cream, and then Parmesan. So we're going to use roughly about 50 grams or so of Parmesan. That's what's really going to add the richness to the sauce. That's probably about right. Just start to combine that all together. We just need to leave that be now for a little while, let it come back to a gentle simmer. Our chicken is almost there. We've just hit 70 on a few of them, so only another few degrees to go and then we're good to go. At this stage then we can also go back in with our bacon. Give that a mix through. And we need to let that come up to temperature again, start to come to a simmer and thicken slightly, just to darken down the colour a little bit, and then we are good to go. It's time to plate up. Okay, so we let that sauce bubble away for a little while, thicken up. You notice the colour change in it, that sort of dark orange starts to come through in it from the tomatoes and that little bit of bacon fat. Then we simply made up some rigatoni pasta. We lifted it off, sliced up our chicken breast and poured some of that sauce over the top. Finished it off with a little bit of sliced up basil. That's just for Instagram, but so we'll dive in and give it a try. It smells awesome. I'm not normally a fan of tomato-based pasta sauces, more of a carbonara kind of guy, but the little hint of tomato in that, just from them cooking out into that sauce, it's rich, it's creamy, the bacon and the parmesan adds a little bit of saltiness in there as well, and the chicken is still nice and moist from cooking it over the coals and then moving it in direct. So I did a chili beef pasta last year, and if you want to check out, I'll leave the little video thing here for it, you can have a look. This is probably on a par with it. One of my favourite pasta dishes I've had. So if you want to see the recipe, the link is in the description below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.